For the past 3 years, I have used a Wahoo Kickr paired with Kickr Climb Grade Simulator as my cycling trainer, and I have been very happy with that setup. Recently, I upgraded to a Wahoo Kickr bike all-in-one smart indoor cycling trainer. In this video, I will show you how I set up my Kickr bike to match my road bike and what I like and dislike about it. And we'll compare my experience riding on my road bike to the experience of riding an indoor on Wahoo Kickr Smart Trainer. Hello and welcome to Telvi. 3 years ago, I discovered Zwift and started to search for a smart indoor trainer that worked best with Zwift cycling app. Wahoo Kickr was, from reviews, the best option at that time. I used my old bike frame and drivetrain to ride on a Wahoo Kickr, which served as a resistance emulator of a chosen course on Zwift. 6 months later, I added a Kickr Climb indoor grade simulator to my setup. The Kickr Climb changes the tilt of the bike up and down by raising and lowering the front fork of the bike. This was an exciting addition to an already very immersive experience riding in Zwift world. Overall, I was very satisfied with the Kickr Climb combo and the Zwift app for my riding indoors. My wife wanted to start riding indoors too, as a part of her cardio training. Unfortunately, the spare bike frame I used with the indoor trainer did not allow sufficient adjustability to properly fit her on the trainer. She does not ride on the road and does not have a bike that we could fit for my setup. This was the reason we decided to upgrade to Wahoo Kickr bike, which allows a high degree of adjustability to fit most riders. Our goal was to be able to quickly adjust the trainer to fit either of us when we want to use it. The Wahoo Kickr bike was easy to assemble and set up, especially since I already had a Zwift account and an Apple TV box. Wahoo offers an app that analyzes a picture of your road bike and gives you target numbers for the 5 available adjustments on the Kickr bike to match your fit on the road bike. I thought this was a cool idea and gave it a try. After I set up the Kickr bike according to Wahoo recommended settings and did a test ride on Zwift, I was not sure the app values were accurate. My fit on the Kickr bike didn't feel right at all. I brought my road bike next to the Kickr bike and started comparing critical fit dimensions between my road bike and the Kickr bike indoor trainer. I found that the app recommended bike position was not even close to my road bike setup. I decided to translate my road bike fit to the Wahoo Kickr bike manually. Here's how I did it. First, I adjusted the saddle height, measuring from the center of the bottom bracket to the middle top of the saddle. Second, by using a longer ruler with a horizontal level bubble gauge, I measured and matched the distance from the top of the handlebar to the horizontal line at the middle of the saddle surface. This set the saddle to handlebar drop dimension, or stock height according to Wahoo's lingo. Next, I adjusted the knee to pedal position by extending the top tube of the Kickr bike using the top tube setback adjustment next to the seat post. I adjusted the setback such that a vertical line from the front of my knee intersects with the ball of my big toe joint when my foot is clipped in the pedal and positioned at the 9 o'clock of the pedal stroke. Last, I adjusted the reach distance from the top tube of the Kickr bike to match the distance from the center of the handlebar to the tip of the saddle. I did this by adjusting the length of the top tube next to the stem. The 5th dimension changes the standover height, which is not critical for adjusting the riding position. In fact, since we're always getting off the bike by first clipping one foot into the pedal and swinging the leg over the trainer, we elevated the whole bike by increasing the standover height to position C to view the TV screen more comfortably. I was able to successfully adjust the Kickr bike for myself and my wife. We are 5 feet 11 inches and 5 feet 7 inches tall, respectively. However, to make the proper knee to pedal fit, I had to extend the top tube all the way using the setback adjustment. And still, I had to move the saddle back on its rails by about 1 inch to achieve the right fit for myself. Riders who have long femur bones may have difficulty adjusting this trainer to properly fit their bodies. Even while I was adjusting the trainer, I realized that the lever-based clamps that hold the steer tube and seat post in position are poorly designed, and that both the seat post and steer tube had slipped down only after a few minutes of test riding. Tightening both clamps to about 80% of my hand strength still was not enough to stop the seat post from slipping down. Only after wiping the excess lubricant from the seat post and steer tube and applying 100% hand tightening force, I was able to stop the slipping of the seat post. I'd heard about this design problem from Kickr Bike Reviews published shortly after this trainer was released in late 2019. I was hoping that the clamp design problem would be fixed by now, in the middle of 2021. Even a $200 bicycle sold at Walmart have better seat post clamps than the clamps Wahoo continues using on their top-of-the-line product sold at $3,500. Shame on Wahoo leadership for not listening to their customer complaints, especially when the faulty part can be easily replaced at only a cost of a couple of dollars. Since we bought this trainer to be used by both my wife and me, I probably would be adjusting our new indoor trainer to my wife's fit settings every time she wants to ride, because the effort required to tighten the seat post and steer tube clamps is too high for her hands. Based on my experience adjusting the top tube lengths, I've also noticed that it feels notchy. It doesn't slide smoothly, and it often gets stuck, requiring rocking of the sliding part up and down to get it to the right position. Overall, this trainer's adjustability, quality of build, and ergonomics are not quite what I expected from the premium product sold at thousands of dollars. I was excited about the new features introduced with Kickr Bike, such as infinite number of gears, electronic shifting, steering in Zwift, tilting of the bike in the center rather than at the fork like with Kickr Climb Grade Simulator. So let's briefly talk about these new features. The additional virtual gears are nice, and I will use them when climbing steep grades of Zwift Duez. The in-game steering is a gimmick in my opinion, and the steering button's placement on the handlebar levers are not ideal. I hit them all the time when I simply hold the levers. The functional buttons on the top of the left lever allows manual tilting up and down if you don't want to use an online app that adjusts tilt automatically. But who and why would use a manual tilt control on a trainer meant to be controlled by an online app? One of the buttons on the right lever triggers a turnaround on a Zwift course. After 3 years of riding on Zwift, I never had to turn around on the course. Unfortunately, buttons are not customizable at this point either. The second button on the right lever starts a power-up in Zwift. This last button is actually useful for triggering power-ups during a Zwift race or when sprinting. The bike tilting in the middle of the Kickr Bike versus at the fork with a climber grade simulator has a greater range of tilt adjustability from -15 to 20 degrees versus -10 to 15 degrees on the Kickr Climb. The grade changes with Kickr Climb simulator were perfectly smooth, but in my first few rides on Kickr Bike, I experienced a back and forth rocking of the tilt mechanism on steep descents of 12 to 14 degrees. My concern is that this, sooner or later, may lead to a problem. After a few rides on my new Wahoo Kickr Bike, I'm now ready to answer the question: is it worth it, and for whom? Unfortunately, by the time I received new Kickr Bike, I had already sold my Kickr and Climb simulator setup. If I would have still had it, I would have returned the Kickr Bike. Since both my wife and I want to ride indoor, we will reluctantly keep the Kickr Bike for now. However, if you are considering upgrading from your Kickr Plus Kickr Climb setup, I would not recommend it. So, who might consider buying a new Kickr bike? The beginner cyclists who want to ride indoor and who can afford it. The Wahoo Kickr bike is a complete indoor trainer that is ready to be used out of the box. For cyclists who don't have a spare frame set or who don't want to use their primary bike on the indoor trainer like Wahoo Kickr, the Wahoo Kickr bike will make indoor training ready at any time without removing wheels and messing with a dirty chain. However, households needing a trainer to be used by more than one individual may experience frustrating difficulties adjusting Kickr bike fit. They should look at other fully adjustable smart trainers before buying Wahoo Kickr bike. Unfortunately, I have not tried any of other smart trainers from Stages, Peloton, Echelon that compete with Kickr bike. I would encourage you to research and try them yourself before you buy your next indoor trainer. Wahoo priced the Kickr bike $900 higher than Wahoo Kickr plus Kickr Climb grade simulator combo. This price difference makes sense considering that you need to have or buy a spare bike frame set, a drivetrain, handlebar, pedals, etc. to make it work with a Wahoo Kickr plus Climb combo. Since we decided to keep the Kickr bike for now, I changed the stock saddle, handlebar, and handlebar tape to make it feel closer to my road bike. The stock saddle that came with the trainer is okay, but it is too wide in the front and I replaced it with my old carbon saddle from AX Lightness. It weighs only 59 grams and it is silly to use it on a stationary trainer, but I love the fit of it and all my bike saddles from the past 20 years are from AX Lightness company. The stock handlebar is too thin for my taste and its geometry makes it difficult to sprint, as top of the bar hits my arms when I'm in sprinting position. I replaced the stock handlebar with a Cinelli neomorphic carbon bar previously used on my other bike. It works well for sprinting and it has ergonomically molded top of the bar to rest palms on long rides. The trusty durable Physique bar tape provides a cushioned, grippy feel, the same as on my road bike. As the last point of this video, I want to briefly talk about subjective pedaling feel when comparing riding my bike on the road with riding indoor on the two smart trainers from Wahoo. While Wahoo smart trainers emulate road experience quite well, I find that resistance through the pedal stroke on the smart trainer feels more constant versus a more dynamic change in resistance feel when pedaling on the road. What I mean, it feels like each pedal stroke produces more inertia, giving the muscles a momentary rest and release in each pedal stroke. While on the trainer, the resistance of each pedal stroke feels continuous, like pedaling through viscous mud. Perhaps it is better for training continuous power output? I'm not sure. Let me know if you experience the same pedaling feel difference riding on the smart trainer versus riding on the road. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe to this channel. See you next time. Cheers.